Okay. Assalamualaikum. Alright, so let's continue with phylum in the kingdom of Plantae. So we are going to start with the non-vascular plant first. So remember, non-vascular plant are those plant in the kingdom of Plantae that do not have xylem or phloem. They are not having vascular tissue. Alright, so they are not producing seed, okay, and yet they produce only spores. Okay, so there are two different phylums here, as you can see, the phylum of Bryophyta and phylum of Hepatophyta. Please, I put here pictures for you to memorize the structure, alright? Because this is all matters in the chapter of biodiversity, where you need to have a good memorization and good visual, right? Okay, so for phylum Bryophyta, the examples are Polytrichum species and Sphagnum species. And please remember, the dominant generation stage of the life cycle for non-vascular plant is the gametophyte. Okay, how the gametophyte looks like, right? Why the gametophyte is the dominant stage of the life cycle? I did mention in the previous video, right? Okay, so for phylum Bryophyta, the gametophyte having a leaf-like structure, while for phylum of Hepatophyta, example Machantia species, the gametophyte is having a thallus or flat-like structure, as you can see from this picture. This is flat or thallus-like structure, and this is leaf-like structure of the gametophyte. Okay. Alright. So for phylum of Bryophyta, the female gametophyte produce archegonium with egg, while male gametophyte produce antheridium with sperm cells. Okay. Alright. As for phylum of Hepatophyta, the male gametophyte will be having their own thallus, which produce antheridia with sperm cells, while the female gametophyte, the female thallus, will produce archegonium with egg. So you can see from here, this showing you two different thallus. Alright, the one that a coconut tree-like structure here is the female gametophyte. So you can see the female gametophyte has its own thallus that will produce archegonium with egg cells, while this one is the male gametophyte or male thallus that will produce antheridium with sperm cells. Okay, and this plant also may undergo asexual reproduction by producing gamma. You can see the structure, the small structure here, or you can refer to textbook. Alright, gamma that develop from gamma cup on the thallus. Okay. Okay, so remember, non-vascular plant has two different phylums. Sorry, three phylums. Okay, two phylums, right? Phylum Hepatophyta and phylum Bryophyta. Alright. Okay, now we go to the vascular plant. So for vascular plant, they are divided into two different types: seedless vascular plant and seed vascular plant. Okay, so why is it called as seedless? Okay, because they are not producing seed, they just produce spores. Okay, so again, in this seedless vascular plant, they have two different phylums: phylum Lycophyta and phylum Monilophyta. So phylum Lycophyta, example of the plant are Silaginella species and also Lycopodium. Okay, right. As for phylum Monilophyta, the example is fern. Okay, right. Or in Malay we call as paku pakis. Okay, alright. So for phylum Lycophyta, alright, so the dominant stage of the life cycle is no longer gametophyte, but yet it is sporophyte dominant. Okay, alright. So for Silaginella, it produce two different types of spores, heterosporous spore, while Lycopodium produce one type of spore only, so we call as homosporous spore. As for fern, it produce one type of spore in a structure that we call as sorus. So this one, this is sorus, so you can have the sporangium here. So it produce one type of spore. Okay, so for phylum Lycophyta, it has sporangia. The sporangia is located in a cone-like structure that we call as strobili or strobilus. Okay, for phylum Monilophyta, both gametophyte and the sporophyte are syntactic and can live independently. Okay, so meaning that the gametophyte and the sporophyte live separately, so they are not dependent to one another. Okay, right. So it produces one type of spore, where the spore will develop into bisexual gametophyte. Okay, the gametophyte is known as prothallus. Okay, what does that mean by bisexual gametophyte? So remember, in this slide, I did show that the male gametophyte and the female gametophyte is separately, where they are separate on different thallus. Okay, but as for seedless vascular plant, meaning for fern, the spore will develop into bisexual gametophyte, meaning on the same gametophyte, they are going to have both antheridia and archegonia. Right. So the gametophyte is known as prothallus, no longer thallus. Thallus is meant for here. Okay, phylum Hepatophyta. Okay, so for fern, alright, okay, the gametophyte is known as prothallus. The prothallus is smaller than the sporophyte, and it has a heart-shaped structure, and it have rhizoid. So the function of rhizoid you know already. Okay, alright, and the prothallus has both archegonia and antheridia on the same prothallus. Okay, the sporangia are in cluster that we call as sori, and the sori is located at the back of the fronds. So the sori often covered with indusium. This one is the indusium. Okay, alright, so this picture, boy, ada suara. Okay, so this picture showing you the structure of the prothallus. Okay, so you can see the prothallus, the gametophyte, right, which we call as prothallus, has both archegonia, okay, has both male and female structure, gametophyte. Okay, so this one is the antheridia that will produce sperm cell, and here is the archegonia that will produce egg cells. Okay, alright, so next we go to the seed vascular plant. So remember, seed vascular plant divided into two, either they are gymnosperm or angiosperm. So now let's start with gymnosperm. So meaning that, remember, gymnosperm and angiosperm both are seed vascular plant, meaning they produce seed. The difference is that either the seed is covered with ovary wall or not covered by ovary wall. Okay, so let's go to gymnosperm. So for gymnosperm, the seed is not covered by ovary wall. Okay, and another characteristic is that they are lacking of flowers and also fruits. Okay, so the seed of the gymnosperm is called as naked seed. Okay, alright, and what happened? The seed will be having scale surrounding the cone. Alright, there are 4 phylums. Phylum Coniferophyta, example Pinus species, phylum Cicadophyta, phylum Genatophyta, and phylum Ginkgophyta. So you have the picture here, and also you may refer to textbook as well. And of course, the dominant stage of the life cycle is the sporophyte. Okay, so I'm going to go a bit detail about Pinus species. Okay, in the phylum of Coniferophyta, right? So you can see that it have tough needle leaf-like leaf structure that with thick cuticle in the cluster of 2 or 5. It produce 2 different types of spores, or we call as heterospores, which will produce microspores and megaspores in different cones. So you can see this is the female cone, okay, the megaspore, and this is the male cone that containing microspore. Okay, and the gametophyte generation will be reduced and depending on the sporophyte. Since the sporophyte is dominant, so of course gametophyte will be a bit smaller. Okay, and you can see no external water needed for fertilization, right? It produces large amount of pollen that is adapted to live on land, okay, compared to fern. Okay, right. And also it has water conducting cells, for example trachete. So they have more advanced development in terms of the water conducting cells and also sugar conducting cells. Okay. Okay, next we go to angiosperm. So for angiosperm, or we call as the flowering plant, there is only a single phylum, which is phylum Entophyta. Okay, so angiosperm produce flowers and fruits, not like gymnosperm, and of course the ovule enclosed within the ovary. So in other words, the seed is covered with ovary wall. Okay, the seed will develop from the ovule, okay, and the wall of ovary will thicken to form the fruits. For example, mango fruits. Just imagine mango fruits. The seed of the mango is actually developed from the ovule, while the mango itself, the sweet or orangey colored the mango, is actually the ovary wall. Okay, all right. And of course, the dominant stage of the life cycle is sporophyte. All right. So the female gametophyte will produce single multinucleated cell, which we call as embryo sac, while the male gametophyte will produce the pollen grain. So for detail, this will be discussed in chapter 9. Okay, right. All angiosperms are heterosporous. Okay, it produces two different types of spores, microspores and megaspores. Microspore form male gametophytes, while megaspore, of course, form the female gametophytes. Okay, and it undergoes sexual reproduction by using flowers as the agent of pollination. Okay, the flowers will attract insects and also pollinators. So therefore they are not totally depending on wind. Okay, like gymnosperm. Okay, so and it may also undergo a sexual reproduction through vegetative reproduction that you will be learn in chapter 9. For example, rhizome, corm, tuber, runner, and whatnot. Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned that the vascular tissue are more advanced, so you can see the vascular tissue are more specialized. It has xylem vessels, and the phloem has companion cells. Okay, and then no need water for fertilization like the lower parts of plant, like fern, like marchantia and whatnot. Okay, so the production of ovule and growth of pollen tube, and also the production of seeds is much more faster than the gymnosperm. Okay, and the fertilization or the sexual reproduction of flowering plant is known as double fertilization, where kenapa double? Why double? Because they are going to produce two sperms. One sperm will one sperm will fuses with egg, forming the zygote, and another sperm will fuses with the polar nuclei, okay, within the embryo sac, and produce endosperm. Okay, that have 3N chromosome number, which we call as triploid. Okay, so you can see from textbook the picture showing you the life cycle of angiosperm. So this is what we call as the embryo. Okay, that produced from the fertilization of sperm and also an egg. Okay, alright. So the detailed life cycle of angiosperm will be discussed in chapter 9. Okay, so before we end, so a little bit more that you need to know the differences between angiosperms. Okay, since there is only one phylum Entophyta, right? So the plants in the phylum Entophyta divided into two. Either they are eudicot or monocot. Eudicot means the embryo having two cotyledons, or monocot with the embryo that have only one cotyledon. Okay, alright. So you can see from this picture, alright. For example, okay, so you can see these differences. Okay, so for monocot there is only one cotyledon. For eudicot, the example flower here, right, it has two cotyledons. Okay, and they have also differentiated by looking at the net venation. By looking at the leaf venation, right? For monocot, it looks through the parallel leaf venation, while for Unicode it has net-like leaf venation. Okay, and lastly is about vascular bundle distribution of the stem. You can see for monocot it has scattered distribution of vascular tissue, while for Unicode it has ring arrangement of the vascular tissue. Okay, alright. So before I end, so I put here some important highlights for you to understand the differences between non-vascular plant, seedless vascular plant, and seed vascular plant in terms of the different in terms of the gametophyte, sporophyte, and example of the phylum. So you can read for your further understanding and summarization. Alright. Okay, so last but not least, I have here some link of games, simple games that for you to join, and I will paste it in either iTaklim or in our either Google Classroom and whatnot. Okay, right. So you may try for your own good. Okay, so I think that's all. That's all about Kingdom of Plantae. Thank you very much. Bye bye.